Donald Trump and his regime were in full panic mode all last night as the Iranian leadership has issued major warnings regarding the Strait of Hormuz and the possibility that war will escalate yet again. Now, you wouldn't know that by listening to the headlines out there, which are controlled by regime media and Trump's market manipulation, but let's pay attention to the facts, folks, and I'm going to show you the tells that the Trump regime is in a major panic mode right now. You have Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying, you know how there used to be Baghdad Bob in Iraq? Well, now they have Tehran Tim, and they're just lying about everything in Iran. You should be listening to what we say the deal says, not what Iran actually says the deal says when you read the Memorandum of Understanding. You had Donald Trump doing that deranged speech last night where people were walking out while he was giving that speech in Washington, D.C., where he was saying, and we destroyed their navy, and for the first time in 3,000 years, we've created peace in the Middle East. And then you have the Trump regime's energy secretary, Chris Wright, saying we've never put out more oil than the Strait of Hormuz than we just did in the past 24 hours, 72 ships carrying 20 million barrels. Isn't this incredible? And they are manipulating the market, folks. If you look at the price right now of Brent crude, I mean, you're talking about $72.53. You're talking about prices that are lower right now than when the war even began. And we're talking about prices significantly lower right now than they were under former President Biden. If you want a better understanding of market manipulation, just look right here at this chart I created of the price of Brent crude under former President Biden, when you clearly had the oil industry colluding against him. I mean, just look at what the prices were back then. July 2022, when the Strait of Hormuz was open, $111.93. August 2022, $100.45. Look at October 2023, $90.60. September 2023, $93.72. Significantly higher than it is right now after this massive catastrophic war in Iran, where there's still so much uncertainty in the Strait of Hormuz. And I understand under former President Biden, there was, what was going on. Russia invaded Ukraine, and that was one of the situations that caused the price to rise. But the Strait of Hormuz was open. Most of the oil transport hubs were existing, unlike right now. And so it's obvious market manipulation that's taking place. And when you look right now at the maps, if you look at the satellite footage, which is what we analyze here at the MeidasTouch Network, look at the past 24 hours in the Strait of Hormuz right now. Yes, you'll see an uptick in ships leaving, but you're not seeing ships returning. So there was an exodus of ships trying to get out. By the way, a lot of the ships that got out were affiliated with Iran, were Iranian ships, were Iranian ships working with China, and that's not directly benefiting the United States right now. That's not going to replenish the tank bottom issue that's going on in Cushing right now in Oklahoma, where America keeps its strategic petroleum reserves, which has been drawn down more than ever, like in the history of the United States, nor is that helping the global strategic reserves, which is close to hitting tank bottom at this stage, at least. And what's going to happen when the ships don't come back in? I mean, I think I'm raising very basic red flags, and the Trump regime knows that. That's why they are in this massive market manipulation mode right now. I mean, if you take a look right here as well, this is how the study of war says it, and I agree with them. Many analysts expect Hormuz to return to pre-war normal, but the study of war and MeidasTouch argues the opposite. It's using the ceasefire to create permanent leverage. That's what is actually going on because Iran won the war. And just read what the MOU says. It says that Iran, in consultation with Oman and other Arab nations, will control the Strait of Hormuz. The probability of normalized flows is therefore almost zero. I agree. I don't know why people are treating this like it's going to just go back to normal before the war. That's part of the market manipulation campaign that's going on. That would reduce Iran's leverage to zero, and Iran's not giving up its leverage. Have we learned anything? And again, the Trump regime knows this. They're in their Bernie Madoff, let's scam everybody over and over again, which is going to cause more catastrophic damage. Do we all see what's happening? Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, they put out a warning yesterday, late afternoon, early evening, saying it is entirely unacceptable for any ship to use the Oman shipping lane. You must go through the IRGC controlled lane. And they said if we see ships using the Oman lane, we reserve the right to blow those ships up. That means at any moment right now, we could see a situation where this situation escalates and there may be going back to war. I mean, Iran saying this is its sovereign territory, and it's made it very clear. Any ships using the Oman lane can be subject to a strike right there. At the same time, you have Israel Netanyahu continuing to strike areas in Lebanon. You have Lebanon. This was a statement issued by Hezbollah last night. For the second time in less than 48 hours, the Zionist enemy army deliberately targeted Lebanese citizens who were inspecting their residence in Doha in Kafar Ruman, claiming that they posed a threat to its occupying forces. The treacherous attack carried out at 16:30 with a drone-launched missile strike resulted in the martyrdom of 2 civilian citizens who were directly targeting. The Islamic resistance reiterates the enemy's actions constitute a flagrant violation of the ceasefire. And so, no matter what you think about that one way or the other, the bottom line is that the parties are saying ceasefire violations are currently happening right now. You have Marco Rubio in the United Arab Emirates and in Kuwait and meeting with Gulf Cooperation Council countries, trying to tell them don't do reconciliation commissions with Iran. Don't work to reconcile your relationship with Iran after Qatar and Saudi Arabia said they're going to be hosting a conference to reconcile with Iran. You have the Trump regime trying to stop that from happening. Iran recognizes that's happening. That's why you have Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson hitting back at Rubio and basically saying, stop interfering, stop misrepresenting the MOU, because you're going to create a situation that brings us all back to war very soon. You have Iran's deputy foreign minister making it very clear that there will be no nuclear inspections until after there is a complete and final deal where Iran gets all of the money unfrozen, where Iran gets all of the benefits until Israel fully withdraws from Lebanon. Israel says it's not withdrawing from Lebanon. In fact, during purported ceasefire discussions between Israel and Lebanon, Israel under Netanyahu made more demands for more land and saying, yes, we have these security zones, but we want to go even deeper into Lebanon and create what we call pilot zones. Security zones, plus we want pilot zones. And then you have the Lebanese government saying that's those pilot zones, this is our country. You need to get out of our country. And Israel saying, no. The security zones are ours, plus we want pilot zones. So you have all of that taking place right now. And of course, Iran's not giving up its ballistic missiles. Iran still has its navy. Iran has now made billions of dollars more because it was ready. The moment the U.S. blockade was lifted, Iran had like 50 tankers, boom, one after another, go send their oil to China. They crushed it and made so much money. And so any aspect of the blockade that was being utilized by the U.S. that may have been affected, although it was a very porous blockade, that now has been rendered ineffective because Iran's now been able to get past it because the blockade and Iran's been able to get all of its oil where it needs to go. And you have this great uncertainty in the Strait of Hormuz. You have all of that happening right now, but then the Trump regime is pumping the oil markets. Like, do you see what's happening right now? And I think they're falsely reporting the data, and they're understating what's happening in Cushing in Oklahoma with the strategic reserves here, what's happening with the international reserves. And I'm not This is happening in plain view. So let me show you. I mean, you'll see them panic. Here you have Treasury Secretary Bessent said, oh, Baghdad Bob, Iran, they're Tehran Tim. No, you're Baghdad Bob. Trump is Baghdad Bob. You guys have lied about everything. The memorandum of understanding is the memorandum of understanding. You see, the Trump regime now wants to say, well, yeah, that's the memorandum of understanding. That's what's in writing, sure. And then there were talks in Switzerland where there was a joint statement. That's what's in writing, sure. But Iran knows there are super secret side deals going on, and those are the ones that really matter. Not the explicit text that we can all read. It's the secret side deal frameworks that nobody knows. This is the pattern with the Trump regime, right? What did Donald Trump say again last night? I brought in $19.1 trillion. Where's the deal? Where's the money? Where is it? It's all a lie. They make up everything, the Trump regime. There's no deals. It's frameworks on frameworks. It's so Orwellian. It's all lies. Here's actual Baghdad Bob, Baghdad Bessent. Here's what he has to say. Play this clip.
So when you hear the Iranians, maybe it's the IRGC, with this public relations saying the IAEA inspectors are not coming, the Strait of Hormuz is closed, all of these things day to day get picked up.
What amazes me is the same people, a lot of the hawks in the U.S. who say, you can't believe anything the Iranians say unless they say it about the negotiations, right? Like, believe them for the negotiations. Remember Baghdad Bob from Iraq? It's kind of Tehran Tim, right? Like, it's just a lot of big talk, and let's just see how this cooks out. But I'm optimistic.
I mean, these guys are the biggest scummy fraudsters that they are. I mean, they make, again, the Bernie Madoffs look like child's play compared to this. Then you have this sociopath, Mike Walls, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, and he has this just obnoxious voice. The unfrozen funds are going into escrow. Iran's money's going into escrow, and they're going to be buying agriculture. What are you basing that on? You're just making this up. Iran, if it said in the MOU that Iran has to buy American corn and agriculture, then I would believe you. If it said it in the joint statement, if I saw Iran using the money to buy it, I would believe you. But you're just a bunch of liars. They're not buying corn. Remember when the Trump regime bragged that China was buying soybeans when under former President Biden, they bought 26 million metric tons. And then Trump's like, guess what? China's buying 13 million metric tons. Aren't I so much better than Biden? I never heard about soybean issues under Biden. I never heard about these things because it just happened. And now you're bragging that you have less. So, I mean, this is what the Trump regime does. Watch this sociopath Walls. Let's play this clip.
You've got the unfrozen funds. Those unfrozen funds will go into escrow. And as the president just reminding the world that they are going to buy excess crops from our farmers, wheat, soybean, and other agricultural products. We have no issue with the Iranian people, and the Iranian people have suffered under this regime. In fact, we're starting to see executions now of some of the imprisoned protesters start to increase, which is completely unacceptable. Has been denounced by the UN and a number of countries. We have no problem with helping the Iranian people get fed, despite the mismanagement of this regime. But those unfrozen funds are going to go into escrow. We control it, and they buy excess farmer crops.
So I want to.
And then, as I noted, Donald Trump during that speech, he was like, Iran has no navy. They have no missile launchers. I've created peace in the Middle East No, you didn't. You didn't create peace in the Middle East. You can't just say ceasefire in Gaza while the genocide's still going on. There's a ceasefire. I solved 8 wars, 9 wars. It's all it's all a fraud at the biggest level. And the market is being wildly manipulated based on all of this. And what happens if the Strait of Hormuz closes tomorrow? What then happens to the streets when no one's being prepared for what's actually happening behind the scenes right now? That's why I want to bring it to your attention. Here's what here's what Trump says. Let's play this.
Today, Iran has no Navy, no Air Force, no anti-aircraft capacity, no missile launches, no manufacturing, and their leadership has been obliterated. And for the first time in 3,000 years, we are finally going to have peace.
Then he goes, I'm thrilled to declare that America's back and nobody's laughing at us anymore. The whole world is horrified and laughing at us. Play this clip.
Nobody's laughing at us anymore.
Then you have Sean Duffy, Donald Trump's transportation secretary, and his daughter has Down syndrome. And during his speech, while his daughter was standing right next to him, and again, his daughter Valentina, who has Down syndrome, he starts calling Democrats, and he starts to call the performers who didn't want to play at Donald Trump's 250th speech, whatever the hell it was, libtards. While he has his Down syndrome daughter, he's using a derogatory term and saying libtards. Again, these are such deranged human beings. Your own daughter with Down syndrome is standing right next to you. Who behaves like this? Let's play this clip right here.
Way better than those libtards that canceled on us.
And so you have the most, again, pathetic, fraudulent regime imaginable. You see for yourself, though, what's going on. I want to give you the data. Do with it what you will. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. Help us get to 7. We're almost there at 7 million. Help us get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.